Net neutrality. What is it? How did it become net neutrality, and some current events? Well, net neutrality, according to ABC News, net neutrality is the principle that states internet providers must treat all content equally and not give preference to some digital content providers. Doing so means that consumers can load all internet content such as websites, apps, videos, GIFs, and more. This means that internet users can use the internet without the provider charging more for websites that stream movie shows or one that promotes a specific agenda. But how did we come to net neutrality? According to History.com, in 1983, researchers began to assemble the network of networks that became the modern internet. The online world then took a turn on the most recognizable form in 1990, when computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. While it's often confused with the internet, the web is actually the most common form of accessing the internet in forms of hyperlinks and webs. The web helped to popularize the internet among the public even now, and has served as a crucial step in developing the vast trove of information that most of us now access on a daily basis. According to CNET.com, in 1999, there was no issue of net neutrality as we know it today, which allows consumers to access the internet and without any illegal content the way they want, or the internet without internet service broadband providers blocking or slowing their access. There wasn't any notion of the fast lane or the slow lane. But there was a big question about how the Federal Communications Commission, or the FCC, should classify broadband services. Back then, the problem was the internet service providers such as America Online and Prodigy were able to grow their businesses because they could access the old telephone networks. In 1999, cable operators started to offer dial-up internet service access. And America Online and others asked for access to the cable network so that way they could grow their own businesses. The dial-up internet would use the old telephone infrastructure, the scratchy squealing sound before you heard "You've got mail." Now that we understand a little bit more about the history behind it, who came up with the idea of calling it that? Well, according to law.columbia.edu, Tim Wu, a professor of law, coined the term network neutrality back in 2002 to describe the concept that internet service providers should treat all content equally. In June 2002, he came out with a proposal for network neutrality. As a general description, the proposal would strike a balance. It would forbid broadband operators, absent a showing of harm, from restricting what users do with their internet connection while giving the operator general freedom to manage bandwidth, consumption, and other matters of local concern. The principle achieves this by developing forbidden and permissible grounds for discriminating among packets on its network. Generally speaking, the forbidden grounds are inter-network KDA, such as IP addresses or application type. Conversely, the allowable grounds for restriction are local KDA, particularly bandwidth. As the DC Circuit once said of the Bell system, the consumer has a right reasonably to use his connection in ways which are privately beneficial without being publicly determinable. This tentative proposal represents an effort to find that balance. In 2015, the FCC adopted rules that made net neutrality the law of the land. For our third and final topic today, we'll be talking about current events. According to SaveTheInternet.com, which is ran by FreePress.net, in 2015, millions of activists had pressured the FCC to adopt historic net neutrality rules that would keep the internet free and open, thus allowing the people to share and access information of their choosing without interference. On December 14, 2017, the Republican majority approved of Chairman Ajit Pai's plan to get the net neutrality plan. Ajit Pai is a former Verizon lawyer and Trump appointee. Pai ignored all the widespread outcry against his plan from millions of people, lawmakers, and companies and co-public interest groups. In December of 2017, net neutrality was repealed. This means that the FCC voted to end rules that were put in place to keep the internet open and fair. The rules of net neutrality were there to prevent the internet service providers from playing favorites by speeding up or slowing down traffic from specific websites and apps. Now the issue may ultimately be decided in court, however, Congress can also pursue a legislative solution. By now, there's probably a couple of questions such as, is the repeal set in stone, and what will I have to pay for now? Well, for starters, according to CNN, no, the repeal is not set in stone. The repeal could be overturned in court or by Congress themselves. There's a Democratic senator who is working on legislation. The net neutrality advocates are even saying that they'll push ahead with both options to fight the repeal. But for the repeal to go into effect, it has to be first approved by the Office of Management and Budget. This process could take several months. And what will we have to pay for now? Well, according to CNN, they say that right now it's all theoretical, but the repeal could change how customers are billed for services, both for good and bad. T-Mobile, for example, were criticized by net neutrality supporters for effectively making it cheaper for customers to stream videos from Netflix and HBO, thus putting other video services at a disadvantage. And that ends what we've talked about today. We've talked about what it is, the history behind it, and some of the current events.